From KGW News, this is Straight Talk with Laurel Porter.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. Okay, I put on some sparkle for this show, you probably noticed, as a nod to our guest this week who glitters, shines, and definitely sparkles. Poison Waters, also known as Kevin Cook, has a style I can't hope to match, but sequins seem to fit the occasion as Poison, who has performed drag for 35 years, joins us to help kick off the beginning of Pride Month. First, a little about Pride Month. Pride is celebrated in June to honor the Stonewall Riots, an uprising in New York City that began on June 28, 1969, when New York City police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay club in Greenwich Village. Protests against the raid lasted for 6 days and served as a catalyst for the gay rights movement around the world. Today, Pride Month, during the month of June, seeks to achieve equal justice and equal opportunity for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning Americans. Our guest, Poison Waters, is a Portland drag artist, one of the country's most well-known drag performers who performs at Darcelle 15 Showplace. Poison hosted the memorial service in April for Walter Cole, aka Darcelle 15, who died at the age of 92. And just as Darcelle wished, following her death, the show did go on, and Poison Waters entertained. Our photographer, Kyle, was there, and Poison noticed.
My God, you're quite attractive. You're on the wrong side of the camera. What is your name?
Kyle.
Kyle? Yeah. Oh, I don't care for that name. Okay, so...
Poison also has the honor of serving as Grand Marshal of this weekend's Starlight Parade, one of the Rose Festival's most popular events. The recognition for Poison comes at a time drag queens are under attack in many parts of the country. Anti-drag bills have been introduced in at least 14 states. Here to talk about that and much more, welcome my guest, Poison Waters, aka Kevin Cook. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you again.
You and I co-anchored a show together a few years ago when I
Yes.
didn't have a co-anchor for a few months. So it's great to have you back. You look marvelous.
Thank you. You look fabulous too. I love your sparkle.
Well, inspired by you.
Thank
I feel
you so
a little bit
much.
underdressed.
Oh, not at all.
So let's talk about Saturday.
Okay.
Starlight Parade. You are the Grand Marshal. How excited are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited I can't even stand it. I've literally been leaning on all my friends and supporters to help get me to this point. I have hair done and I have costumes done, and it's the drop off and the pickup, it's all being handled. I'm like a frazzled little egg that's ready to crack. So many people have reached out on social media and phone calls and emails just to say how excited they are to come and support me, and I'm just thrilled.
So you've got your outfit already.
I have the outfit already. I had my final fitting, and it's happening.
She was telling me a little bit about it. It's going to be dazzling.
It's going to be very exciting. I couldn't have gone, you can go big or go home, right? That's what they say, so I'm really excited.
Have you been practicing your parade
I have
wave?
been doing my wave, and I'll tell you, I was doing it wrong all these years. You know, every little drag queen always practices waving in a parade, and I've been doing it wrong, Laurel. You're not supposed to go this way and this way because somebody told me armpits aren't pretty. I didn't know that.
Okay.
And so you have to cross body wave this way and this way. So now you know. So
I did not know
the next time you're in a parade, cross body wave, that's what they say.
Let's take a look at the parade route so people know where it's going to be. This Saturday starts at 8 o'clock and it's just on the west side, right?
Yeah, downtown, yeah.
So what does it mean to you to be the Grand Marshal of the Starlight Parade?
Well, I tell you, I grew up in Portland, moved here in 1979 at 11 years old, and my family was on the east side. We're over in Park Rose area, very poor, didn't have a lot of opportunities and resources. And so to me, downtown Portland was always this big kind of mystical, Wizard of Oz type place that I always wanted to go. I just knew it was calling me. So in marching band in junior high and high school, we got to be in the Starlight Parade, and I thought that was the most fun. It was so cool to see everything lit up and the community just cheering alongside. I've always loved the Rose Festival, every aspect of it, just, for a little kid on the east side who grew up not thinking of much of things like that. It always seemed like the annual, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So I've been in the parade before, and I've had wonderful times in the parade and great memories with all Rose Festival events. But to be then recognized for my position in the community and things I've done in honor of our dear Darcelle, who was actually the Grand Marshal about 9-10 years ago. So I just love it. It means so much to me, and people tell me all the time, Poison, you should move to a bigger city. You could do this, you could do that in the country. But why would I leave Portland? This is my home, so this is perfect.
You really, really love it. You mentioned Darcelle. Let's talk about Darcelle.
Sure.
AKA Walter Cole. You were very close, good friends. He was your mentor. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank
It
you
must have
so
been
much.
very difficult.
It was one of the most difficult times of my life, and still continues to be. But you know, having Darcelle mentor me and teach me all there is to know about drag and performing and business, and you know, Darcelle taught me how to be a person, not just a personality, and he showed me how to carry on in the face of, you know, adverse situations. And his passing was one of those things that he had prepared us all for at the club, unknowingly or knowingly. It was nothing we ever talked about, but every lesson he taught me about the club and our community and how we interact with the audience and people prepared myself personally and the rest of our cast and crew for his passing.
Well, Darcelle 15 Showplace is the longest running drag show on the West Coast. Darcelle was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records, crowned as the oldest drag queen. That was in 2016.
Yeah, so at 92, he was the oldest living working drag queen.
And Darcelle really was a champion, an early champion of LGBTQ rights, a pioneering entertainer. What did Darcelle mean? What does Darcelle mean to the LGBTQ community?
Well, you know, Darcelle, as you said, it paved the way. And unknowingly, none of it was intentional. Darcelle was just being his true, authentic self, saying, I'm going to open this bar downtown. I'm going to entertain people. I'm going to dress in drag. This is what his calling was. This is what he wanted to do. And he inspired so many others to follow in his footsteps. So without purposefully going out, he wasn't holding a sign and banging on doors and saying, you know, rights for our community. Just being your true self, doing what you're called to do and what your heart tells you to do is kind of a protest in its own. And so Darcelle, just regardless of what was happening in the political arena, what was happening right outside the doors in Old Town, never wavered, never considered closing the shop, never considered backing down from anything, just kept going forward. And so I think gave myself, the whole drag community, and the larger Portland community a great lesson that, you know, you just carry on. He was 56 years in that same spot is where the club is. And so that's not a lot of places in Portland could do that, as you know, right now. So he just carried on. He carried on and taught us all the lesson to do so. And
the building, the club's actually on the historic register, right?
Yeah, it is. The club, which is in part of a larger block of building. Our club itself is recently added to the National Register of Historic Places, which is really exciting. His home was too, a couple of years ago, added to that. So Darcelle's just made it, you know, nationally. Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice that Darcelle ever gave you?
Well, I will tell you, it sounds so simple, but he said, be kind. And he said it to me when we first met. I was a teenager and I was kind of a snippy little thing, you know, running the streets in the 80s. And Darcelle, you know, saw something in me and said, you know, I want you to come work for me and we're going to build this together. And just always said, you know, be kind, be nice. And I was always a little, you know, rambunctious, maybe a little, I don't know, full of myself. And literally up until throughout our whole career, every now and again, he'd remind me, you know, be kind, be nice. And I always hear that in my head, his voice in my head. And the week he passed away, we spent, all of us were there together with Darcelle the week, each day in the hospital. And one of the last things he said, please don't let them forget me, which no one ever could. And he said, please keep it going, meaning the club, which of course we intend to do. And then he squeezed my hand again and he said, be kind. So for 35 years, he's been telling me to be kind. I guess I should start.
Well, I think you're kind, and that's good advice, I think, for all of us,
It's
especially in these times.
Exactly. It's so simple, but it's so true.
I think a lot of people watching may never have been to Darcelle's Showplace, Darcelle 15, or to a drag show. Can you describe for us what a drag show is like for people who've never been?
Sure. Darcelle is so fantastic. You know, there's a lot of clubs and a lot of restaurants and hotels and bars that do drag kind of, I'll say, pop-ups. Well, Darcelle's, if the doors are open, we're having a drag show. That's what we do. And Darcelle was so smart that, you know, 50 some years ago to think of it as a theater. Darcelle came from a theater background, so our club is built like a theater. There's a stage and curtains and dressing room and backstage. The audience comes in, you're seated in theater seating, rows of chairs. You watch a 90-minute show, and then you leave. It's not like a traditional bar where you hang around and drink and socialize. It's not that sort of a thing. So imagine if you're going to a Broadway show or the opera or the ballet. It's the same scenario, except we're all in drag on stage. And so our show is a majority lip sync performances, choreographed dances, performances with groups or singles, individuals, and everybody's dressed as flamboyantly as we can. Darcelle made many of the costumes that are still used in the show at the club, and every performer is different. We have a cast of 7 right now, and all 7 are completely different. So our audience always says there's a little something for everybody.
Is there audience interaction?
There is, again, a lesson from Darcelle is how to meet people where they are, make it as a safe space. And when people say that, it doesn't just mean a safe space for LGBTQ community. We have, a Midwestern fella who's there visiting maybe his gay brother or his gay child. So we need to make it safe for them and let them feel comfortable too. We want everybody to feel seen and supported. So we are on the microphone telling jokes and interviewing people. Where are you from? What's your birthday celebration? That sort of thing. And then also some of the performances with audience consent. You can, if you put a hand out, you want to come up on stage and dance with one of the performers. It's all very simple. It's practically Disneyland, but with cocktails.
Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, there are a lot of states who are passing anti-drag laws, and I want to talk about some of those and get your reaction. In February, Tennessee became the first state to explicitly ban drag shows in public places. So they didn't ban drag shows altogether, but in public places. A number of other states are considering similar legislation. They prohibit what they call adult cabaret performances, where minors could watch in public places. So what effect does that kind of law and these laws that are being considered have on the LGBTQ community, do you think?
Well, it is terrible, first of all, I have to say personally. And the interesting part about those laws and what's happening in other parts of the country is that it's not affecting us here, which makes us feel, a little guilty that, why is it happening over there to these folks? But over here in the Pacific Northwest, drag is actually celebrated, of course, with the help of Darcelle, with the help of the club, with the help of our political climate in the Pacific Northwest. We're celebrated and honored and invited to be a part of all sorts of things. No one even suggests that they shut down any of the things that we're doing. So our community, we in the Pacific Northwest have seen an onslaught of support. We had Darcelle's just this last weekend. There are people from Tennessee, from Florida, from Texas, from these states. They're like, we're visiting, we have a vacation. We wanted to come to Oregon. We heard that this is where, drag is great. So they come specifically for that, which is really just wonderful. What we feel is that those laws are trying to push back, take us back. We say the phrase going back in the closet. To say that drag shouldn't be in public, well, that's where it used to be, underground in basements. Nobody knew about it. Well, now through all the hard work of all of the mentors and all of the heroes in our past that helped bring us to where we are today, why would we then want to throw all their work out the window and go backwards? We're not ready to do that, and I don't think we will. The folks in the other parts of the country, I do feel terrible for the other drag performers. This is what we do. We perform. We're out in public. We're out engaging with audiences that choose to engage with us. The misconception is that drag queens are just running amok, forcing ourselves into schools and churches and libraries, and that's just not the case. We're going where we're invited, and no one's required to come to the show. So folks that want to participate, come to participate, and it's all fine.
Well, there are some conservative critics of drag queens who claim that the art form sexually grooms children. How would you respond to those claims?
I think that's the most bizarre thing, because the folks that are saying that are the ones that have put that in their mind and put it out in the universe. No drag queen I ever met thought there's nothing sexy about this, Laurel. This is the most uncomfortable I ever am. There's nothing, I don't think, appealing about any of this in that way. It's just the furthest thing from any of our mind. We're, characters. We're like clowns. We're here to have fun. We want to educate people, entertain people, embrace people, where they're coming from, what their pain, their journey. People come to drag shows for that reason, for that purpose, to just kind of let go of their problems, let go of their issues. The 90% of our events are adults only. Just because we're performing in bars or performing in places that children are allowed. Drag was never, it's not this big master plan, oh my gosh, we can't wait to go perform for children. That's just wacky. The people who think that are the ones that are accusing. So I'm like, well, wait, where did you even come up with that? You came up with that. We didn't come up with that. And so the events that we do for all age audiences, I think Drag Queen Storytime is fantastic. There's so many beautifully, wonderfully well-written books specifically for children that are about acceptance, about diversity, about live and let live. And that's where the drag queens reading those stories, people are like, oh my gosh, that's sexualizing. There's zero sexuality going on with any of that stuff. So yeah, it's hard to respond to those folks or combat those folks because it's just mind-boggling.
Well, you mentioned that we're not really impacted here in the Northwest, but there have been some cancellations, some vandalism. I just want to mention that and get your reaction. That even in Portland, even though we don't have anti-drag laws, an after-school pride event a couple of weeks ago was canceled at an elementary school after threats and intimidation. Some things on social media mentioned a drag show and also used some anti-LGBTQ rhetoric like grooming. Then we saw vandalism at Heathen Brewing in Vancouver, where they were going to have a brunch, a benefit brunch, a drag brunch. It was unclear if the vandalism was actually connected, but the head chef said that he had received hateful and threatening messages about that drag benefit brunch event. Then you mentioned Drag Queen Story Hour. Last October, a bar in Eugene hosted a Drag Queen Story Hour that drew protesters and counter-protesters, made national headlines after the group started throwing smoke grenades and rocks at each other. And even here, it's affecting us. How do you feel about that and the misconceptions that you talk about that people have?
Well, it's unfortunate that it's hitting so close to home. And our community has always been very supportive and has always been there. Even, the allyship is really strong. Allies, folks that aren't necessarily members of the LGBTQ community, but folks that want to support us and have always been there. I think the folks that, are sending hateful, messages on social media, the majority of them don't even live here. I feel terrible. The folks in Eugene had to cancel their thing. The groups that I'm working with to combat that, our answer to that is to keep moving forward.
And one of the things you're doing is having a dragathon.
Yes, we're having a dragathon.
Is partnering with Darcelle 15 Showplace. Yes. Tell us about the dragathon.
Yeah, our wonderful friends at Wild Fang, the amazing clothing company, they had the great idea to help raise $250,000 for the Trevor Project, which does wonderful work for the LGBTQ youth in suicide prevention and mental health. And to kind of just, groups are saying no more drag, ban drag. So our answer is let's give more drag. So we're gonna have 48 hours of nonstop drag at Darcelle 15 with drag queens from all over the country who've been invited to perform. It's gonna be a really fantastic thing. It's July 10th through 12th, a Monday through a Wednesday, nonstop. I'll probably have a beard by the time we're done, but it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be really great.
Well, we look forward to that. Poison, we're going to take a break right now, but coming up next, we're going to find out more about Kevin Cook, how he found Poison Waters, and how he gives back to the community. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. We are sparkling for this week's show as we kick off Pride Month with a very special guest, Portland drag performer Poison Waters. So fun to have you here.
Thanks. This is great. I'm having a great time.
So by day, you're Kevin Cook. By
That's right.
night, you're Poison Waters.
That's
you
right.
grew up Kevin Cook in the Park Rose neighborhood. You came here when you were about 11 years old. What was your early life like, and how did you discover Poison Waters?
Well, my early life, as I said, was in Park Rose with my family, and with limited resources and opportunities, we just lived in Park Rose. To me, downtown Portland was miles away. There was no reason to even go to Southeast Portland or any of these other places. And when I graduated high school was the same year that the MAX started running from Gateway to downtown. And so I could take a bus from where I lived. I've never driven. Did you know that, Laurel?
No,
I've never had
a
car. I've never had a license. I've never driven. And so I would take the bus to Gateway and hop on the MAX, which was this magical train that zipped me to downtown Portland, and there I was. So this is the late 80s when, Pioneer Square was full of mohawks and wild color hairs, and it was just so fun. It was just a lively, the 80s were so fun. And so I started going to an underage, all-age nightclub that was called the City Nightclub, and it was a gay nightclub, but really everybody came from all, back then everybody was just mixed together. And they started having these drag shows at midnight, and I didn't really like them. them because I'm like, I want to dance to the music, as the 80s and Taylor Dane and Madonna and Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. So I wanted to dance, and they would make us stop dancing because they had to do a drag show at midnight. And so we had to sit on the floor, and I was like, I didn't like that because I'm a Virgo and anal retentive. So anyway, so we watched these shows, and it was, teenagers like myself, and they were dressed like in their sister's clothes or whatever. So I was like, okay, whatever. Well, then one night they had special guests, drag performers, and it opened the curtain, and there were 4 beautiful black drag queens all dressed in white, sparkle, sequin, and pearls and everything. And that's when the light bulb went off. I'd never seen a black drag queen before, so it didn't mean anything to me. So as soon as I saw that and I saw the glitz and the glamour, I'm like, oh, wait, this is a whole nother ballgame. So that's what sparked me, and I immediately became friends with all 4 of those people. They didn't know me from the wall, and they were older. They worked at Embers and Darcelle's, and I just made them be my friend. I was like the little puppy just yapping at their ankles until they helped do this to me.
Well, a lot of people may be wondering, because you are Kevin Cook by day and Poison Waters by night, what pronouns do we use?
Well, it's interesting. Darcelle and I used to joke because we would say, we're from before pronouns. Back then, we were just so thankful anybody was referring to us at all. But, there's a big difference between drag queens and the trans community. So in the trans community, it's so important, to be addressed as who you are and who you are. Never mind what you're presenting, how you appear. It's who you are inside. For me, I'm he, she, they. They call me Kevin when I'm in drag. They call me Poison when I'm out of drag. To me, it just doesn't matter because that's not an important thing for me personally. But I think the pronouns are a hot topic now, and people are still finding their way. And I think as long as everyone on both sides is respectful, folks that maybe have changed their pronoun and then they have to give a little grace and patience to their friends and family, and then folks that are on the other side, if somebody tells you, hey, this is my pronoun, and it's not really what you were thinking, well, it's not up to you. It's up to you have to kind of respect the person. So it goes both ways, respect and kindness on both sides.
Well, as Kevin Cook and as Poison Waters, you really give back a lot to the community. As Kevin Cook, you're really involved with Camp KC. We have a few photos. Tell us about that.
So Camp KC is a week-long summer camp for children ages 5 to 15 whose lives are affected by HIV and AIDS. And I first started volunteering in 1988 for Cascade AIDS Project at the height of the AIDS epidemic in our town, and I just didn't know, what can I do? I just, growing up, as I said, very low income, my family benefited from lots of service, social service organizations and programs, so I always remembered that. So as an adult, I could start volunteering for those and kind of in some way give back. And then as people started hiring Poison Waters to be a spokesperson or MC an event, and I could donate when I could, or work when I can for these organizations, and it was a natural transition from receiving the assistance from these groups to help promote them in the community and help garner support and their volunteer armies and their financial donors.
And you're also teaching at Portland Community College, the history of drag. Tell us about that.
Well, that is so fun. I never thought, during the pandemic, everything was just kind of wacky, right? We're all sitting at home. What are we going to do? And I got an email from Portland Community College saying we would like you to teach a course on drag history for our community education program. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, I guess I've been living it for, back then it was only 32, 33 years. And the drag history, talking about Darcelle in her 90s, and other friends from that era that I've known my whole drag career. So I've learned the lessons directly from the people that were there. And then with a little, internet research, I found we had drag history documented back in 1914 in Portland drag troupe. So it's been really fun. It's been educational. It's been great to revisit a lot of my friends who have long since passed away and see where they fit into this and present it to. We sold out the class many, many, many times. We're on again in August, the first Sunday in August.
Well, I have a feeling a lot of people will be checking out that class. We have about 45 seconds left for you to have a final thought you'd like to leave with our viewers as we begin Pride Month and the Starlight Parade Saturday.
Well, I'm so thankful and appreciative for all the opportunities that have come my way, Laurel. Everything that's come my way has been a blessing, and I've enjoyed it, and I just now recognize that and do my best to return it to the community. And so that's what I ask people to do, to count your blessings and return them out into the community in any way you're able to.
And to be kind, as
Be
Darcelle
kind, as
told
Darcelle
you,
said,
and
be
all of
kind.
us. Thank you, Poison Water, so much for joining us. You can catch Poison Waters as Grand Marshal leading the Starlight Parade on Saturday night, beginning at 8 o'clock. We're just so glad that Poison could join us to give us your insights, adding some glitz and glam. This is the most glamorous Straight Talk that we've
so
ever
fun.
had.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you for
having me.
watching and for listening to our podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Search for KGW Straight Talk. And we're going to see you next week, but because we had so much more we wanted to talk to Poison about, we're going to have a bonus episode of Straight Talk. You can catch it streaming on KGW Plus and on the KGW YouTube channel. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk.